This is the Seller Process Podcast, where we talk about the best systems, processes, and SOPs for your Amazon business so that you can regain control of your time, build up your team, and scale your e-com empire.
Hello, entrepreneurs. If you are looking to streamline your business and make it more efficient, delegating daily tasks so that you can focus on the strategy and vision of your business, then this episode is for you. Because we are joined today by an automation master who has built a complete system to find, vet, and hire virtual assistants or any type of person you would want to recruit. These automations allow you to exponentially speed up and increase the efficiency of your recruitment process. So today we'll go through this automation system together with our guest, Barak Almog. He's the owner of sellerframe.com, which helps business owners automate their business using code and no-code tools and outsource business functions to a team of high performers. He's a blogger, a video content creator, a speaker, and the owner of several online communities dedicated to helping entrepreneurs build automatic and autonomous businesses. Hey, Barak, I'm very excited for this call. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you for this beautiful introduction. And likewise, I mean, I got to say, when we first talked about this interview, it took us a little bit time to coordinate it. But I got to say that I'm talking on a lot of podcasts, most of them in Hebrew. And this one was one that I was really looking forward to. I mean, awesome. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, so, that's great. That's great. So, Let's dive right in, because this is a very interesting topic for our podcast, the seller process. You know, we're very big on automation and systems and processes, and you're a master on automating processes. So I'm very curious to go through this process together now. So to begin with, can you give us like a general overview of this system to automate the process of hiring VAs, and then we'll go like deeper into each step?
Yeah, we are process people, so we're after efficiency. Yeah, I'm gonna dive right in. So, like you mentioned, I've been hiring VAs for myself and for clients for probably 4 years, and I created an automated system that helps me do it efficiently. Now, before I talk about the automation, let's talk a bit about the process. And the process that I follow for most low-level position goes as follows. Right. So we're defining first the type of person and the skills that we want to hire. Then we're going to post a job post in groups or sites where that person is likely to be. Next, we start to get responses. I'm going to chat shortly on site to qualify the candidate, see if he might be a good fit. If we're happy, we'll send them, that candidate, a link to the application form to apply. Once they applied, I'm going to send them a short practical skill test. If we're happy with the results, we'll invite them to a personal interview. And then at that point, I'm going to make a decision, a hire, no hire decision. Now, I'm not going to go into details into the steps, because I covered that in a free Udemy course, which will link for the benefits of anyone that listens. I just want to focus on the automation. The process that I described, it sounds simple enough, right? So why do we need an automation? And there are several reasons. The first is that hiring is a huge investment of time and effort, right? So it can go very wrong, or very, if you choose the wrong person, or it can turn your business around if you hit a home run with them. The second reason is the hiring is a number game. Okay, so if you're able to quickly vet 100 candidates, you'll probably make a better hiring decision than if you can maybe check only 10 of them. And finally, a hiring process, and anyone that did hiring, for their own business knows that, is packed with loads of repetitive and menial, boring tasks that consume lots of energy and time. So an automated system, the one that I designed, we use it I use it with two main parts. Okay. And talk about the structure. The first important part is the visual data structure component that I built on top of Airtable account. It's very popular. And the second part is the automated scenarios that are powered by Integromat. Now, Airtable, for anyone that doesn't know, is a visual workable data structure. It looks a little bit like Google Sheets in essence, but actually it's very different from it. I use Airtable to collect the candidate's information, to slice and view it in meaningful ways. And most importantly, I trigger actions with respect to the current step of the process. So, just to give a short example, an action can be send candidate a skill test, all right? And the way that I trigger it is by clicking a button right inside my data structure, which is visual, like I said. And what happens next is a series of, it's an automated scenario being handled by Integromat, by the way, which is like Zapier. And it sends an email automatically, that updates the information in my data table, and so on and so forth, right? Anything that I would have done manually. And the entire process is handled in the same elegant, simplistic, and powerful way. And this allowed me to vet out hundreds of people easily, where my competitors may have been able to only process a fraction of that. Just one last sentence. There is actually quite a good visual demonstration of the entire process on YouTube, and we'll link to that as well for the benefit of anyone that wants to watch. So I try to compress my answer. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, for sure. So actually, you were right to mention that. So guys, remember that in any episode of the seller process, you always find a download button in the show notes of the episode at thesellerprocess.com or in the description of the YouTube video. So in that download button, you will find a host of lots of resources that Barak is giving away. So he's one of the most generous person I really I've met so far. And so if you will go there and to choose the complementary materials that we're giving for this episode, you will be blown away by, there is going to be an SOP, videos, a Udemy course, and many other things. And obviously, the Airtable that we're talking about is going to be there. It's just like another version, like a smaller version of the complete process that we're discussing now. But you will find basically one piece of that process already for you to test that Barak is giving for free for us. So
I should say, by the way, that the Airtable is the exact table that I use. The only thing that is not included is the automations. But if you're willing to do it manually, just have a few persons to hire, then you use the exact same structure that I do. Awesome. I give it away. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So guys, make sure to check out those downloads. Go to thesellerprocess.com, find this episode, and download the complementary materials. So moving forward, you mentioned before about this process that has two very interesting components of this automation. You mentioned to me before the application form and also the skill test. These are, I think, two very important part of this process, and it's also like really the core of how you can process so many applications at once, instead of, as we mentioned, like our competitors might just go through just a few applications because they do lots of manual work, but through this system we can automate most of that. So let's start with this application form. How do you suggest that we build one, and what do you suggest that we include in this application form?
Right. So that's actually a great question. And I want to make a distinction that the application form and the skill test are part of the process. And the data, the Airtable data structure and the Integromat account that I use are how I implement the automation. So these are like different layers of it. And this is a good question, and I'm going to take it to the automation aspect, right? So application form, first of all, is a simple online form like Google Forms or Typeform, Job Form, or whatever you prefer to use. that is just the official entry point of our candidates to the recruitment process, right? So from a process standpoint, an application form is just a standardization of the entry point, right? We instruct our VAs what information we want to see and what information we're not interested to see at this point. And without that, let me tell you, you'll have to sift through endless emotional, lengthy, irrelevant pitches in your email to collect that info, that simple info, right? So that's the process standpoint. From an automation standpoint, an application form is an absolute must. It forces a structure, right, on the data that you absorb, you get into your funnel so that your automated process can handle it. You can verify integrity, make sure that an email is an email, a phone number is a phone number, stuff like that. You can set rules on it. You can even process your candidates differently based on their information provided. So, for example, if someone is a team leader, you might maybe skip the skill test and send them directly to an interview or whatever, right? What type of questions am I asking in my application form? So first of all, obviously the personal info, okay, the name, the nickname, the email, phone, address. I request for probably a 2-line summary of educational and professional background. I'm going to ask about their work environment, especially if it's a VA in the Philippines. You want to see that they have a good computer and internet, stuff like that. And I'm going to ask for a photo and a document CV. Now, all this allow us not only to get a sense of the candidates, in a quick glance, you kind of see what they answer and you get the feel, but it also allows you to propagate them immediately to the system in an organized way, right? They just show up in your data structure. And as your hiring process proceeds, and our candidates data table will be populated automatically. And you see, without that, you or your team member, we're going to have to waste a lot of precious minutes in collecting and typing this data. So, and I'm just going to mention one line that, again, this is part of the process, and this is also covered in my free course and the material I give away. So you can learn more about it.
Okay, that's awesome. Actually, I think it's something that I experienced myself recently. I posted a job application on Upwork, and then I had to basically compare all the various, information and questions that I asked, and I put them in a like an Evernote table, something like very manual that it really wasted a lot of my time. So I think really this is a much more powerful way to go about hiring anybody, because you can get through a form, you can get so many more responses, and then you have it there just through this automation that you've built. They're all there in one place in the Airtable spreadsheet, and you can easily compare tens of or dozens of application in one glance without any manual work. So this is a really great point, and something that I wish I knew before. All right, so
it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. You get in more people, you get better.
Absolutely.
It's just a number.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true. All right, so let's move on with this process. So after the application form, there is the first screening. You mentioned you have two type of screening. The first looking at CVs, and then phone numbers. So give us quickly just a few best practices for this part of screening people.
Okay, I have a lot to say about that also. What you're talking about is a CV screening and phone screening. And now in the past, when my process was still maturing, I used to invest a lot of time in CV screening. I used to do a phone short interview with a candidate. Actually, my VA used to do that, but that's still time wasted in a sense, and I'll explain. So I think many sellers like me in the past, they get this wrong. Most sellers that I know, when hiring a new team member, they're going to invest a lot of precious time reading their CV. And I say it's unnecessary, at least in the beginning of the process, for a few reasons. Okay, I like lists, you probably noticed. First, the CV is the least accurate measure that we have in this process. Okay, for the most part, you're going to find it too long, packed with a lot of irrelevant details and big words. Second, most candidates, and I worked a lot in online jobs with the Philippines, which are great people, but a lot of them know how to appeal to a potential client, and they know what we want to hear. So, for example, a candidate that has spent maybe a week creating Facebook post on Canva in a previous position, they might add the graphic design to his skill set, which is not a good representation of what he can do. Okay. And the third and most important thing, in my experience, 50% of the candidates that start the process with me never bother submitting the skill test, the practical skill test. And this is, of course, a great filter for me. It shows me who's serious in working with us, and or anyone that's just looking to take us for a ride. So if a candidate didn't submit their skill test, why should I invest even 2 minutes reading his CV? So when a candidate what do I do? When a candidate first applies, I'm just going to brush through their CV, just checking to see if they have the relevant experience for the job. Shouldn't take longer than 15 seconds. You just scan for keywords with your eye. If they submitted the skill test and I like them, then just before the personal interview, the next step, I will read their CV and prepare more relevant questions. Only then. Phone screening, we used to do in the past. I kind of found it redundant and time costly. And these days, I don't do it anymore. I don't do any phone screening, just skill test and interview.
Okay, got it. So just to make it clear, I would like to understand, at what point do you send this skill test? It's still like you have to manually click a button, right, to send them the skill test, right?
Yeah, okay. I do. Exactly. They apply. Well, like I mentioned, let's say that I'm posting on online jobs. I'm going to chat shortly with the candidate just to see that we're on the same page, that not someone that just apply automatically for everything. Then if I'm happy with what he told me, I'm going to allow them to apply. At that point, I probably just brush through their CV really fast and assign the skill test to them. Now, this can be done automatically, by the way, but I want to have that point of control. And if you ask why I use Airtable, that's the reason. That the process is automatic, but I still have my points of control, right? And so I click on a button and the skill test is being sent. Up until now, I probably spent on that candidate between 30 seconds to 1 minute. I'm really trying to be efficient here. So okay. Is that clear?
Okay, got it. Yeah, for sure. So everybody, will have different criteria to evaluate that person, obviously. So we will leave that to each person. They might have their own ways to evaluate a candidate. But what you're suggesting is essentially going very fast through these CVs, just looking, just to screen out those who are really totally off the job, and then you send the skill test, and then that's where actually the main part is going to be, the main evaluation is going to be through the skill test, right? So
the interview.
Okay, great. So let's talk about the skill test then first. So what do you suggest to include in this skill test? How that looks like, and also I'm interested to see to know some real life examples of skill tests that you used or your client used.
Yeah, I'll have that for you in a second. I just want to add that everything that I'm referring to right now is mostly, more suitable for low-level positions. But if you're starting, like PPC VA, like Amazon general purpose VA, stuff like that, people like that. But if you're looking for someone that's more higher level, like a team leader or some sort of a higher level position, you're probably going to want to check his CV in depth and stuff like that. But I'm going for those that you recruit in masses, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's the purpose of this system. So about the skill test, this is, again, a really important question. The skill test should be based on tasks that you are planning to delegate to your VA once hired. Okay, and again, so many sellers get this wrong. They just splurt out some general purpose questions. That's not how you do it. So if we take, for example, a social media VA, which is a very popular position, if I'm looking for someone that will handle my brand's Instagram account, then before initiating a hiring process, I must sit down and visualize how that person's task would look like. Okay. So for example, they might maybe create a visual post for my Instagram feed and search for relevant hashtags and maybe insert some short copy. Maybe they'll search for influencers in the field of my product and communicate with them. Maybe they'll help me come up with ways to increase engagements and following, research on YouTube and stuff like that. So those tasks, I need to understand what I'm going to ask that person to do. And those tasks would be the basis for my skill test. And my skill test should resemble as much as possible to those tasks. All right. Otherwise, I get the wrong information. Now, we had great success with social media VAs hiring. Probably the best position, I saw the best candidates from. And my skill test is exactly those 3 items. I'm requesting them to create a few Instagram visual posts. I'm giving them some specific instructions. I request them to research influencers and Facebook group relevant to my niche. And I ask them to come up with creative, out-of-the-box ways to increase followings. And you will not believe how much you can learn about a candidate from the way that they present and submit their answer. And not only that, Gianmarco, a well-crafted skill test, and this is something most people miss, it helps you learn more about the position because as your hiring process progresses, you might find yourself changing it as you gather information and learn about the potential candidates pool from what they submit. This is really invaluable feedback loop. So just to summarize it, if you are creating your skill test, what you want to do is simple. You just define the most important 3 tasks that you're planning to delegate. Okay, don't make it complicated. Go back to when you last performed them or anyone in your team and simply write down a request for a potential team member to perform those same tasks. Then you strip down any sensitive information, make sure the tasks are as clear as possible. And there you go. That's your recipe.
Awesome. I love it. Actually, yeah, I think I'd never done that level of, depth into hiring a VA. I think it's super valuable. Definitely a skill test. It will teach you a lot about the job itself and also about the candidate. I think, yeah, that's a really powerful way to understand better our candidate. And because actually, I think one of the common problem for people is that once everybody it's good at creating the job application, they send it out on Upwork or online jobs or whatever. But then once you start getting all these people applying, like how do you screen? What do you do with them exactly? It's very difficult to understand who can be a good candidate or not. That's really like the $1 million question. And having like a skill test, it's really like one data point that it's really valuable. It really tells you a lot about the person. Yeah,
and not only that, it's the most important. It's the first major, most important filter, because that's the first time you put the candidate under a stress test. And I'm telling you, we get a great majority of them drop down at the skill test, and I don't want to work with them because if they don't want this job enough, and they're not even investing, 30, 45 minutes in submitting the skill test, then I know that they're going to be a problem later on if I hire them.
Definitely.
They're not dedicated enough.
Because, it also helps you screen these people in terms of like soft skills, not just, the in-job tasks, also like it's a test of determination, in a way, right? Like how bad they want the job. So you really want those people like that are really motivated to get your job, right? So yeah, definitely like a great tip there. And so then moving on, like how do you evaluate these skill tests? So once you get the results, how do you evaluate these results and then decide who is going to be the candidate? Do you have like some best practice to evaluate this skill test?
Yeah. This is a bit of a tricky question to answer. In my opinion, evaluating a skill test, I'm going to give an interesting angle to it. I think, in my opinion, evaluating a skill test is not really a well-defined process but it's a borderline art, I think. It's like every position is different, and I think you said it also. Every business is different, and each business owner is looking to see different things in a potential candidate. One of them will want to see someone that's very independent. Another want to see someone that's communicative and always, in a moment call. So evaluating a skill test, someone submitted, I'm going to start with the obvious things. The most important thing for me is submission on time. So I require them to submit a skill test within 72 hours. If they submit it later, they're out. Okay, there's unless they give me, an advance notice. If they submit it earlier, like on the same day, ideally, then they get extra point from me. I want to see that. Second, following instructions. Now, my skill tests are very specific, and it's on purpose. I'd like to see that they show attention to the small details. So, for example, and this is kind of funny. It's like a meta question. It's not really a question for the candidate. I request them to submit the skill test in a publicly accessible Google Drive link, whatever the position is, okay? And if someone instead shares it with me, share it with, the folder with my email, that's a big points reduction, because why don't you listen? Why don't you read the instructions? Finally is a neat submission. I don't tolerate messy submissions. That's actually forks in my eyes. That indicates a messy person. And again, we're process people, right? So we are very after the organization. And I think a messy person, messy thinking, you're going to have a lot of issues with them in the future. I'm talking about when I'm talking about submission, I'm referring to paragraph structure, fonts, many colors, headings. The submitted document should be pleasing to look. So apart from this, which are kind of the obvious, it's really hard to define a single process to evaluate skill test. But I'll tell you this. I mentioned it twice or three times. Hiring is a numbers game. So automating it gives you the advantage of being exposed to a lot of candidates' information. And I'll tell you that after going through 5 or 10 submissions, you learn what you want to see. And I typically don't invest more than 2-3 minutes checking a submission. It becomes very efficient quickly. So I hope that's useful.
Okay. Yeah, totally. I understand. And yeah, I think that's, completes, the full process that we discussed before. Obviously, after that, you will have the onboarding call with the VA and start working with
No, there is actually the interview, but I think we don't have much time, but it is covered in my free course. So, you guys are covered.
Right. I would like to stay more focused here in the like automation aspect of this of your systems, because obviously hiring a VA, it's something like super valuable, which I really encourage everybody to consider doing in their business, in their journey to grow as a better entrepreneur, because you really need to hone these skills of hiring, recruiting, and managing other people in order to grow your business. That you will never grow too much as a solopreneur, I believe. So that's a very valuable process. But one of the reasons why I'd like to have this conversation with you is that because you have so much knowledge about automation. So that one of the things I wanted to ask you also about this, besides this hiring VA process, is that why are you using this system, this tool, Airtable, and what are some of the features that you use, and how can people, if they are interested in going deeper into the automation space, and get more out of these tools that we have available, what can they do with Airtable? Okay, can you share with us also some other like use cases and applications that could be useful for Amazon sellers?
Well, I'll do my best. Airtable is a very visual tool. And again, for that, we got the free resources that I provided. I'll do my best. This question really opens a universe of possibilities. When I found out about Airtable, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I adopted it quite slowly. And the first the first couple of months, even a little bit more than that. But lately it's been exploding. And I'm going to try to explain. Airtable is a beautiful tool that I personally use to run my entire business and actually parts of my life also. It's sometimes described as Google Sheets on steroids, but it's actually not like that at all. The reason that I use it, Airtable is really a visual database, okay, with entries and fields and stuff like that. And it allows you to plug into and manipulate your data easily, very easily, view and slice it and mold it and present it in any way that you want, gather your insights. And more importantly, you can connect to it using simple and powerful API. If you're a little bit technical, can do magic with it, and you can trigger external actions easily. So I use it to implement the system, the hiring that we talked about, for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're free. The free tier is incredibly generous. I'm already on the pro subscription because I play with some advanced features, but most users will never need to get, to pay, at least not in the current plans. It's extremely versatile. You can literally implement almost any business function that you can think of on top of that and use it to operate your business, like social media management, your CRM. If you use one, Amazon sellers don't have CRM typically. Financial process like expenses, invoices, stuff like that. Sales process, customer service, and many more. And you won't need a different solution unless you scale up really, really big, okay? It's very flexible. As my system evolves, my own system, my business system, I only need to update the Airtable a little bit and the Integromat automations a little bit on the fly with very small impact on my schedule, really flexible. And there are lots of resources online. And besides my hiring system, I have personally developed and used Airtable for social media management that actually I'd be happy to share also. I didn't plan this, but I will share it also, with you guys. So, give another thing. I use it for beta testers and giveaway tracking. Very visual. You see everything immediately. Customer service, suppliers management system, and many others. It's very hard to describe it in a non-really visual session, but I'd be very happy to talk to anyone of the listeners that's interested in embedding the system, swap ideas, help if I can. I'm just leaving my contact details in the description, and you're free to reach out to me, talk to me.
Definitely, for sure. It's something. It could be like a great topic for another episode. I think if people are interested, we can definitely go through that aspect, and definitely you will find, guys, all the contact details of Barak in the description, in the show notes. So actually, this was a really packed episode of lots of information. Tell us quickly, give people quickly like understanding how can they reach out to you, and what can you do for them.
Yeah, that's the best part for me, connecting with more entrepreneurs. So first of all, I really do love connecting with other like-minded business owners. We had a few really nice talks before, me and you, Gianmarco. So if you guys, you're listening, you're a system junkie, or if you're just looking to learn, first of all, feel free to connect with me. You can find me on social media, just Barak Almog. It's very easy. Like I said, I prepared an incredibly practical package for you as a seller process listeners. It's on my website in the link, sellerframe.com/seller process. Okay, that's quite easy. You can find there a link to my free Udemy outsourcing course, useful hiring PDF guide, and a link to the actual Airtable base that I'm using. Apart from that, I'm actually offering, more a done-for-you installation if you want, where I install the entire system in your business, the hiring. If you hire a lot, then that might be interesting for you, or maybe hire for your clients might be interesting for you. I install it and I coach you through your first hiring. So we take you hand to hand. And if you choose to take me on that offer, you can get extra 20% discount with the code seller process 20. It's all going to be linked in the description. And that's it. Either way, I'll be happy to hear from, you will hear about your journey. So hit me up.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much, Barak. So, guys, the key to success is to emulate the best. So, in this case, our Barak here, it's the best in automation and systems. That's why we love him and we want to have him more in
That's
the
why.
seller process. And
That's why I come to the show.
Awesome. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for coming. So, guys, really take advantage of what Barak is sharing with us. So, go to thesellerprocess.com, find this episode. In the show notes, you will find the link to download all these things that Barak is giving us. The Airtable, the Udemy course, the SOP hiring process, and more, and the done for you service, which I'm in, and I'm definitely going to try it as soon as possible with my next hire. So definitely go check it out and download it from the website or from the YouTube description. Thank you again, Barak. Then I'll definitely see you again in the next episode.
That's great. Really. Thanks for inviting me. Grateful.